Viewing and Nature Tourism Working Group for this opportunity, and really thank you to everybody who is spending some time with us today to hear a little bit about our new initiative that we call Restore the Wild. So I'll tell you right up front that Restore the Wild at its heart is it's a call to action for people to support us in the mission that we have to conserve wildlife and manage wildlife, and specifically to conserve and manage habitat for wildlife. And we're going to talk, so that's what it is at its heart and soul. It's a call to action, but we're going to talk to you specifically today about one piece of Restore the Wild, and that piece is a membership initiative. And so we're going to come at this from kind of three different perspectives today. I'm supposed to be controlling the slides. Sorry about that. So I'm going to give you sort of this background and introduction. I'll give you a little bit of a why that we're doing it, sort of the administrative piece. Jessica is going to talk to you about that from a programmatic standpoint, from a watchable wildlife perspective. And then Tim Tassitano is our marketing manager, and he'll talk to you more about a sort of I guess more of a, you know, how our marketing efforts have resulted, and the numbers of people, and he'll give you some numbers and data and those types of things. But what I want you to kind of realize or to know right up front is with the three of us, we're coming from three very different parts of the agency. So I want you to know this isn't just a watchable wildlife initiative. This isn't something that Jessica's doing just to kind of promote watchable wildlife. This isn't something that's coming from our executive director's office that says, hey, you all need to find a way to charge those wildlife viewers money. We've tried that. I'll talk to you about that in a minute. But that's not what this is. This is really an agency-wide program that gives our resource professionals, our fisheries and our wildlife biologists an opportunity to promote and to tout what they're doing from a conservation standpoint. Look at the great work we're doing for fisheries habitat. Look at the great work we're doing for wildlife habitat. Look at the great work we're doing to restore the wild. And then it also gives us this opportunity to begin building a new stakeholder group of like-minded people who want to join us in our mission of conserving wildlife resources. So I'll start. That was the background. So I'll start a little bit now on the why. So why did we do this in the first place? The biggest reason and the very first reason is relevant. I say on the slide, are we relevant? I think we kind of already know that we're not particularly relevant. So the question really is, can we become relevant to Virginians? Can we become relevant to this broader audience? We know that you know, from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services surveys and from other work, there's a significant number of people in Virginia that view wildlife. So is the work that we do to conserve wildlife in Virginia, is that relevant to them? Does that have some impact on their daily life that they feel like some funding, some support should come to our agency? And then hunters and anglers also, I don't have time to tell stories, but I'll just try to give you a brief. When our executive director was fairly new, and he met our governor and our Secretary of Natural Resources for the first time, one of his experience with them, he was talking to them about our mission, about what we do, and a little bit about how we can kind of get some more funding. Some of our sister agencies like parks and water and forestry had been receiving additional funding, and we had not been. And really what he heard from them was, you know, you all are a hunting fishing agency. Hunters and anglers, there's really a finite resource for them in Virginia, and Virginia is growing. We have a bigger population of people. Development is occurring, and so the resources for hunters and anglers, the places for them to recreate, is getting smaller, and so your numbers and quite frankly your relevancy is getting smaller and smaller. And that was kind of an eye-opening, I think, experience for him. And so really his desire for us to be relevant more in that work that we do from a conservation standpoint has kind of helped to spur this on. Also support for the mission, so support for this conservation mission in Virginia. Can we get social support? I think that's really important. So most of you all know, people that, doesn't matter what they do. Do they play golf? Do their kids play soccer or basketball? Do they go to the beach? Whatever it is that they do, people associate with that. They put a sticker on their car. They put pictures on their desk at work. They join Facebook clubs or whatever it is they do, but they associate themselves with that social network of people. And then, so my family is a soccer family. So my kids play soccer, and because of it, probably a couple of times a year, we get the email, hey, your county is going to be voting on whether or not to put lights up at the soccer field or whether or not to convert the one field into a turf field. We need your support. Please go to the Board of Supervisors and voice your support for this, right? Well, what happens? 500 or 600 parents show up at those, and you end up getting lights above the soccer field. So is that social? You identify yourself as a soccer parent, you end up supporting soccer. So it's sort of this social support that we're trying to work on. And then finally, funding and financial support. We tried several years ago. We did a survey and we realized that a significant, or quite a few people were using our wildlife management areas beyond just the regular hunters and anglers. And so we decided we need to charge those people money. If they're going to use our facilities, we need to charge them something. And so we did a little bit of research, and we decided that we think we can make between $150,000 to $200,000 a year if we charge a access permit fee. And that's what we called it. We called it an access permit. We got real creative. Over it's been around for 12 years or so. Over those years, it ranges. We make anywhere from $22,000 to maybe $40,000 to $44,000 on that access permit. What we found was wildlife viewing is not like hunting and fishing. Hunting and fishing, if they want to do it, they have to pay a license fee. It's kind of like a tax. They have to pay the tax. Wildlife viewing is not that way. They don't have to use our wildlife management areas. There's other places. So I know there's a lot of conversation around how do we get financial support from this wildlife enthusiast audience? Do they fit into this user pay type of a model? So what we're going to talk to you today about is really kind of our way of trying to be creative around that, and sort of more of a voluntary support kind of a way of doing things. The other thing I wanted to mention was just several years ago, we developed our recruitment, retention, and reactivation plan, or our R3 plan. In that plan, we decided that we would make wildlife viewing an equal stakeholder to hunting, fishing, and boating. And that was a big decision for us for a few reasons, but we weren't going to demote any of the other things, but we wanted to elevate wildlife viewing to an equal platform. And in order to do that, we needed to make them a stakeholder similar to what a hunter, an angler, or a boater would be. And so we had to get to know them a little bit better. And the other thing I'll tell you about R3 plans that I really like about them is they require you to measure everything. So what we needed to do is, if we were going to do things to make wildlife viewers aware, or if we were going to try to increase participation in wildlife viewing, we needed to know if we were successful in that. And so we had to have a way of measuring it. And so this membership was really a doorway, or a way to get people to come through a door, so that we could measure some of our recruitment efforts and some of our outreach efforts to this new stakeholder group. I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jessica to get more into the how we built the program.
Okay, thanks, Brian. So I'm Jessica, and like Brian said, I'm going to be talking about how we built the program, and then I'll give you a little bit of details about what we built. So like Brian mentioned, we were really driven by this concept of being more relevant and relevancy to a broader audience. And so in order to determine how to be relevant, we did research. And one of the studies that was really helpful in just figuring out how to be relevant was the Nature of American study. And a few things from that study really stood out to us. So that study had recommended to promote nature as a place for involvement in care and not just for experiences. It also reported that Americans really report that nature promotes their well-being, and that was kind of universal in our country. And it also recommended that agencies and organizations work to lower the perceived costs of participation in recreational activities. And so with all those concepts in mind, we really came to this conclusion that we wanted to move beyond selling access and instead go to something that would be more meaningful and more motivational. And we decided we wanted to create something that would be a voluntary contribution to conservation. Next slide. And then we had to determine, okay, so we know we want a voluntary contribution, but we had to figure out where is the money going to go. And ultimately, we decided that this fund we would create would support habitat. And we came to that conclusion largely from looking at the North American Waterfowl Management Plan's North American Birdwatcher Survey. And we were looking at the Atlantic Flyway results being here in Virginia. So a few things from that study that stood out was that the highest ecological concerns that birdwatchers had were all habitat oriented. So they were things like providing a home for wildlife and pollinators and clean water, and that those types of concerns for habitat were even higher than wildlife viewing or bird watching, so higher than their own recreational activities. And that also that their highest participation in conservation activities were also habitat oriented. So they were doing things like making their yard or land more desirable for wildlife, and even donating money to support wildlife and habitat conservation. And we also noted that bird watchers not only self-identify themselves as bird watchers, but they were also identifying themselves as conservationists. So that really kind of pushed us in the direction that we were going to have this fund support habitat. And we thought, in addition to it being of appeal to bird watchers, that it would also have a broader appeal to other constituents as well. Okay, next slide. So we also wanted to ensure that we were meeting the needs of Virginia's birders and wildlife viewers. And we were fortunate in the fact that we kind of had a simultaneous project going on to develop a wildlife recreation plan. And as part of that planning process and survey development, we had some early focus groups occurring. And from those focus groups, we learned that the birders and wildlife viewers in Virginia did in fact desire a mechanism to contribute to our agency, that they were willing to donate to provide funds to support our agency, and that they wanted their support to specifically benefit non-game wildlife or their recreational activities. So that kind of told us that this direction that we were looking at of a voluntary contribution and the money going towards habitat would be of appeal and would be relevant to the birders and wildlife viewers that we were trying to reach. But something else that stood out from the focus groups was that they had expressed that they really wanted, if they were making contributions to our agency, that they wanted to see tangible results. They wanted feedback. In other words, they kind of needed some more transparency from us about where their money was going. So that really stood out, and we knew that communication would be a big component, important component of whatever it was that we were creating. And then going back to the North American Waterfowl Management Plan Birdwatcher Survey, another result from that was that bird watchers had shown that they were had a relatively low interest in purchasing a migratory bird stamp compared to things like access fees or passes for access to public lands. So, there had been a lot of talk in our discussions about would we be creating a stamp, and we kind of decided we wanted to move away from a stamp when we saw that result from the NAWAM survey. So in addition to birders and wildlife viewers, we wondered, is there another sort of target audience that we should be reaching? And we thought that there probably was, and part of that came from surveys that we had done with our access permit at the point of purchase. The access permit purchasers could check a box to say, you know, what activities they plan to do with their permit. And the most popular selected box that people were selecting was other. So there was sort of this mystery group out there that these folks weren't checking the boxes, you know, as much for birding or wildlife viewing or even hiking, but they were selecting other. And so we were sort of like left thinking, well, what does that mean and who are these folks? So we turned to a project that AFWA had done about audience personas, and that was a project to help agencies increase constituent awareness of their role in conserving the environment. And one of the personas that they defined was an outdoor enthusiast, and they described that as folks who are avid about outdoor activities, they're optimistic and like to have fun, and go to the outdoors and nature to recharge. They have pride in their state resources, they're concerned about the environment, and think it's important to conserve resources for future generations. So looking at that persona, we thought, well, wow, that's going to be a really good fit along with our audience of bird watchers and wildlife viewers. And that's how we came up with another target audience. So we really had a strong idea at this point about what we wanted to create in terms of a fund, and we needed a mechanism. We knew it wasn't going to be a stamp. We had moved away from that. And ultimately, we decided on creating a membership program. And we liked the idea of a membership program because largely just found it so positive. It was a really positive message that we could send out in our marketing, you know, inviting folks to join us in our mission. And it also really reframed, gave this positive spin on the access permit, which we were required in Virginia code to still have, but it gave it a positive spin on it. So instead it reframed it as a benefit to becoming a member rather than, oh, buy this mandatory permit. So a much nicer product to be selling as a membership. And we felt that membership was a model that people generally understand, because there's all kinds of memberships out there in the world, and people generally understand if you join something, it comes with an access benefit and some other benefits too. So we liked that.
Hey, Jessica, your audio might be out.
Hey, Jessica, we're not able to hear you. I don't think Jessica can hear us either.
No, I think Jessica's gone.
Brian,
So how do we get her
be able
attention?
to.
Tim, can you text her or anything?
Yeah, let me try that.
She's talking away though. She's doing a great job.
She is.
Jessica, come back to us, Jessica. She's probably going to have her phone off.
All right, I sent her a text.
Oh, there she sees it. Good. Oh, no. Oh, it's connecting.
There we go.
Are you back?
Way back to the
Let me get-
name.
Hi, can you guys hear me now?
We can now, yes.
Okay, I don't know what happened. My phone disconnected. So where did I leave off?
You were
It was-
just talking about the model.
Yeah, it was just at the beginning of the membership program, the positive invitation to join us.
Okay, sorry about that. So I look back. So we came up with the idea of a membership program, and that it provided this positive message. We liked the idea of inviting people to join us to be part of our conservation mission. It also reframed our mandatory permit that we had. So we're still required by Virginia code to have this access permit, but instead it puts a positive spin on it and making it a benefit of our membership program. So we liked that. And then we felt that membership programs are a model that folks generally understand, because there's all kinds of membership programs out there, and that people understand. You become a member of something and you get access as a benefit, or some other benefits come along with it. And then we liked that it supports our R3 strategy. So it fits in well with recruitment, inviting people to join us, and then the sense of social support that one gets from becoming a member of something. So that fit really well. So we knew we were going to go with a membership program, and then we needed to give this program a name. So we came up with Restore the Wild, and we came up with that name for in a few different ways and reasons. It avoided using technical and government jargon, which was really important to us in terms of our goals of being relevant. We liked this because it was really transparent. Restore the Wild says exactly where your money is going to go, that you're helping to restore wild places. And we liked that it provided a call to action right up front, right in the name. So that would work well, with marketing the program. And then the phrase itself, Restore the Wild, really resonates so well with the nature of American study and our ideas of relevancy. So the name promotes nature as a place for involvement and care. It plays into this idea of the restorative sense of well-being that folks derive from being in nature. And it also plays into folks' concerns for future generations, which also came out of that study as well. And so maybe there's like a double meaning with Restore the Wild. So folks are restoring wild places, but they're also maybe connecting to nature and restoring the wild, within themselves as well. We also had this idea that we liked that restore kind of rhymed with explore, and that we could have a companion call to action of explore the wild as well. And the nature of American studies showed that people had a high interest in exploration. So that was something else we enjoyed about this name, Restore the Wild. So just to recap and review, what is Restore the Wild? So it's a membership program. 100% of the program funds go to support habitat projects, and all members receive a one-year pass to our WMAs and lakes. That's their access permit. And they also get additional benefits. And we developed 3 different levels of membership for this program. All right, next slide, yes. So here are the different levels we have. We have a hummingbird, which is a $25 cost, and then a bluebird at $75, and a golden eagle at $250. And we developed little packages that people would get as their benefits of joining at these different levels. And for all of them, they all kind of express our thanks with a thank you gift, but they also help to communicate results and to build relationships as well. So at that base level, the hummingbird, everyone gets the access, but they also get a quarterly newsletter where we can communicate to folks. And that's part of our relationship building goals as well. And they get a sticker as a gift. And then at the bluebird, we add to that, so they get another piece of communication from us. They get a subscription to our magazine. The pocket notebook is another gift. And then at the golden eagle level, they get an art print as the gift, but they also get some name recognition as well in our website and in the newsletter. And then again, for that relationship building and that sort of experience with connection with the agency, we also offer an opportunity to participate in a guided tour at one of our WMAs. Next slide. So here's just an example of the products we created in our first year as the gifts. And you'll notice, so We used red cockaded woodpecker for all of the art. So we decided that each year our artwork for these gifts would feature a species of greatest conservation need, and that would be a great vehicle to help tell our conservation story, and it harkens back to our message of Restore the Wild. Next slide. So in our second year, we selected rusty patched bumblebee, and these were the gifts that went along with that. You can go to the next one. And then in our third year, we held an art contest, which was this is the first year that we've done that. And that was all kind of part of our original vision for Restore the Wild, and for these different gifts that we'd be giving out, that we would hold an art contest to obtain art. And we, of course, inspired by the duck stamp to do that. We thought that would be really good for kind of PR and marketing. And I'll let Tim talk more about that. Next slide. So I just wanted to give you a little sample of the content that goes into our quarterly newsletters, so you can see how we're trying to communicate with folks. So providing those tangible results that birders and wildlife viewers were looking for. So we're always kind of reporting on what's going on with the habitat projects that we're funding, or other stories about restoration projects at the agency. And we also have a thing we've been doing where we've been spotlighting the Golden Eagle members in each different newsletter, to kind of get to that relationship building, again, providing some recognition of who our Golden Eagle members are. And then we also share any other news or events we have going on related to Restore the Wild. And I'm happy to report that we are indeed restoring the wild with the funds that we've been receiving. So thus far, from the funds we received in our first year, we've been able to restore 180 acres of habitat on our lands through 6 different projects that we funded. And all of these projects meet our program goals, so they benefit species of greatest conservation need and unique habitats. We make sure that they're well designed so that they do achieve results. And we also want to choose projects that are publicly accessible or provide some sort of educational opportunity, so that folks can get out there and see the projects that they're helping to fund. And then the picture here is showing the sign that we are planning to place at all of the funded project sites, so that we can report to people, again, as part of our communication plan for Restore the Wild, and show people where their money is going. And then we're collecting images from our habitat project managers, so that we can use these in our newsletters and other stories that we put out there about Restore the Wild and the work that our agency is doing. Again, all part of that effort to be transparent and build relationships and trust with folks. So here's some examples of what we've been collecting from the projects we funded. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tim, who's going to share with you some of the results we've gotten from Restore the Wild and our marketing efforts.
Hey everyone, I'm Tim, and I'm going to highlight some of that promotional work that we've been doing around the first 2 years of Restore the Wild. So as far as marketing and advertising in year 1, we really stayed close to our traditional comfort zone. We pushed out a press release, we advertised in our magazine, we produced printed postcards, we reached out to partner organizations like the Bluebird Society, Master Naturalists, to get us to help us spread the word. Next slide. We produced blog articles introducing the new call to action, which was then themed around some of our different customer list segments and then shared in our various newsletters. We pushed Restore the Wild out on our social media channels. We made it our focus for any cause-driven events such as Earth Day and Giving Tuesday. Next slide. Pre-COVID, it was beginning to become a stronger messaging component for our in-person events, whether it was the theme of a bat house building event at a microbrewery, branded swag at a statewide conference, or even the focus of a silent auction during the Winter Wildlife Festival. Next slide. And for year 1, we saw some success. We had 402 members, 131 individual donations, and we brought in about $22,000 in revenue. Next slide. For year 2, we focused on better site-wide integration within the DWR website. It became the main homepage feature after a major website redesign launched in early 2020. Next slide. We now have pseudo advertisements for the program in various places within our website, from the wildlife section, species profiles, on our blog, and even on our elk cam. We also produce more content themed around Restore the Wild, which in turn gets shared on our social media channels. As Jessica noted, we share Restore the Wild member stories to the public at large, and we promote the habitat work and projects VDWR staff are currently working on. Next slide. In year 2, we began to test Restore the Wild themed merchandise, from patches to shirts, reusable pint glasses, bandanas, notebooks, and even a custom framed art print. In year 2, we also began to look at ways we could meet a broader audience and interact with them more on their terms. Next slide. For example, as Jessica noted, we launched our Restore the Wild art competition. For this competition, we call for submissions from the public that help reflect the program's mission. Artists were asked to select from 6 turtle species that are listed on the species of greatest conservation need in Virginia's Wildlife Action Plan. And for the first year of this competition, we received 28 entries from all across the state, and we had everything from a wood burn piece to watercolor, acrylic paintings, colored pencil drawings, digital work. We even had a quilted piece of art. It was really cool. Next slide. We also had our inaugural Run for the Wild virtual 5K. Individuals registered for this virtual event via guest checkout on our licensing website. Runners were encouraged to use public lands to share their scenic routes and to document native plants and wildlife along their way for a chance to win prizes donated by event partners. All proceeds from this event went towards Restore the Wild. Next slide. We had over 430 participants, about a 60% female, 40% male breakdown. We raised over $12,000 and had participants from 18 different states plus Washington, D.C. Both the virtual 5K and the art contest were popular for us in social media. They were picked up by local news, and they helped us engage with newer audiences for the agency. Next slide. So year 2 just ended for us in April. We now have 1,040 members. We received 418 individual donations, and we brought in about $67,000 in revenue. So we are seeing growth. Next slide. Before I pass this back to Brian, I just wanted to share that for year 3, we're bringing back and looking to expand upon the art contest. Our second Run for the Wild virtual 5K launches this week, and we have our first corporate sponsor for Restore the Wild, which will be announced this fall. This new partnership for us will have our logo in grocery stores all across Virginia, as well as 14 other states. So pretty excited about that one.
Yeah, so Tim, make sure I'm not muted. There we go. So Tim and Jessica, thank you all very, very much for providing that. Tim, you were finished, right?
Yes.
Okay. So just to wrap up real quick, I think a couple of things. We hit you all with a lot of information. A couple of things that I just want to make sure that everybody caught was, this is a membership, and we do accept donations, but it's much bigger than that. This is really our way to connect to this broader community, and not just to connect to them by taking their money, but to actually make them a stakeholder. So you heard Jessica talk about the communication and our communication strategy, and how we tell them, because this is voluntary. So again, think about hunters and anglers. They have to pay this. This is effectively a tax for them. This Restore the Wild is voluntary. So we're effectively selling a product to this new audience. So we have to tell them what their money is going to, and it needs to be something that they care about. And it needs to be something that they're willing to spend money on, quite frankly. So that newsletter is very important. Letting them know what their money is going to is really important. So I wanted you to make sure you got that. The other thing I wanted to make sure you caught was how we're trying to normalize this in the agency and in the agency vernacular. Not just that goes out, but also our internal stuff. So, you saw Tim talk about it's on the wildlife habitat page. he has it as banners and advertisements on all of our pages. If you go to the home page right now, you see something about burning, and it talks about restore the wild. So it's all over our website. It's all over social media. It's become normal in the speak among our agency.
Brian?
Yes.
Brian, we do have a question.
Okay.
I'd like to know if the stakeholders, the Restore the Wild stakeholders, want a voice in management decisions.
So they will. So, you know, we're a state agency just like any other state agency. We have board meetings that are open to the public, and they're open to every public. We have historically not had a lot of wildlife viewers come to our board meetings, primarily because they probably didn't know they existed, and because most of what we cover at our board meetings, they don't care about, is not relevant to them. What we hope this is going to do is it's going to let them know more about what we do. And we certainly welcome them to come to our board meetings. We welcome them to comment on our processes, just like every other stakeholder that we have. So we hope so. I think Jessica mentioned it, that we're working with Virginia Tech now to develop a wildlife viewing plan. And in that plan, we had wildlife viewing stakeholders as part of our stakeholder advisory committee. We put it out for public comment, and I think we received about 400 comments from different individual people. So yes, we welcome input from the public.
Okay, thank you. We do have some other questions in the chat. Would you like to take those now, Brian, or wrap up with the presentation?
We could, if I could just, I think, let me
Yep.
just wrap up one more thing. So where was I? So I think the final thing I wanted to say was moving forward. You heard Tim talk about corporate sponsors and this type of a thing. What we're really looking at, and what we have found, again, because this is voluntary, is we have to meet them where they are. So Run for the Wild is our way of trying to be relevant to people who enjoy trail running. We did the art competition. I think we'll see that grow next year. I think we may actually have an art gallery where we bring people in and where we try to become more relevant to that community of people. Can we be more? I think we're already talking about the end of the summer having a family event, some type of a camping or hiking event on public lands. So, can we become relevant to that group, and can we meet them where they are and what they're doing? So we're going to try more and more to specialize this, to meet people and to be relevant to people and what they enjoy doing. The other thing that we're going to be doing, I think, is looking for corporate sponsors. So, whether it's I don't know, we're looking for all types. So we can meet people in those places as well. So I think it's creative, and we've certainly been enjoying it because it's gotten our creative juices flowing a little bit. But I think I'm going to stop there and just take questions if people have any.
Okay. Brian, thank you. Jessica, Tim, thank you. I'm going to start reading down through some of these questions.
There are several. Your talk is very popular with folks. Just scroll up a bit.
Yep, I had to too. So I'll start off, and then Shelley, you can take the next one. So how much staff time would you say this program takes?
I guess I could jump in a little bit if that's okay. So we actually have a steering committee for Restore the Wild that meets every other week. And we meet for, I don't know, hour and a half to 2 hours each week. So that's part of it. But there's all kinds of other work that goes on other than our meetings to implement the program. Everything like from fulfillment to all of our marketing efforts and putting the newsletter together and the communication. So it does take quite a bit of investment of time.
And I would just real quick, I would agree. It does take time, but I would say keep in mind we've also tried to normalize it across everything. So it's really, Restore the Wild in general is an agency thing. And so it's become part of everything we do. The membership itself does take time. We have to mail some things out, but I think as you get the administrative process going, it's not as cumbersome as what it maybe seems like it could be.
All right. Did you contract out the marketing and design for this effort? The pieces are beautiful.
I can take this one. We did outsource the initial designs, though Jessica and I maintain creative direction over that portion. And what we were after was a specific design system that was flexible so that I could essentially break in and repurpose it as needed, whether it's for Run for the Wild or any other initiative or a t-shirt design or something like that. The marketing itself is all done in-house. And you probably noted that I didn't show too much as far as advertising and results there within, because Restore the Wild doesn't really have an advertising budget. That's part of what we're looking for year 3 is a true digital marketing and advertising budget. And I think with something like that in mind, we're going to see the program grow even more.
Okay. Next question. Did your state chapter of the National Wildlife Federation support this effort, or did they see it as a competition?
Anybody want to take that? I think the quick answer, at least for me, is I don't know.
Okay.
So the next question, do you find there's a high percentage of anti-hunting or anti-trapping folks in the membership? You may not be tracking that yet. I'm not sure.
So I think that's a good question, and I'll try to answer it from a little broader standpoint. So honestly, we have not yet surveyed our membership. So we really haven't asked the membership those types of questions. I think anecdotally, though, we'll tell you in year 1, we promoted it primarily to the people that we already know. So through our social media and that type of thing. So I think in year 1, probably more than half of our members were existing hunters and anglers, because that's who we were promoting it to. That's the only people we know. And it's really interesting because we tell people that it's for habitat and we actually tell them what it's going to. We have several staff members that are Golden Eagle members, and so I know, not just non-hunter, everybody kind of gets behind this. If you like wildlife, if you like conservation, people get behind it and they support it. So are there some antis that are members? Possibly. But there's also hunters and anglers that are members as well. And I think in the future, we'll need to do a survey really to get a better handle on who they are.
Okay. Did you trademark Restore the Wild, or can we borrow it? Jennifer wants to know if she could borrow it.
Finn Wisniewski.
Jennifer, we'll rent it to you for a monthly fee. How does that sound?
That's perfect.
Deal.
So it's not trademarked, but at the same time, it would need some discussion. It sounds like y'all didn't realize how many states would love it. Too well thought out a name. Tim, do you have anything further? Are you good?
No, that was it.
Okay.
Yeah, but maybe Tim, we need to hurry up before people start stealing it, because you may have noticed the we didn't show you membership, but you saw Run from the Wild was however many different states. Our membership looks very similar. We have members from California. We have all over the country.
So Olivia is asking, how do you decide which Golden Eagle members to highlight in your newsletters?
So
Our
we
creative
just-
content, I was going to say, our creative content coordinator had started to reach out to our Golden Eagle members and ask if they were interested in being interviewed or if they had a unique story to tell or anything like that. And then, as Brian noted, some of our Golden Eagle members are actually staff. So we have that kind of insider knowledge to reach out to somebody and highlight them that way.
And
Okay. Sorry, the questions are popping up. I find the next one. Did you have any significant pushback against the program from traditional hunter, angler, shooting sport audiences?
So we have not with this program. So, when we first introduced the access permit and this kind of idea of charging other people, I think there was a little bit of, turfdom, I guess, if you will. There may be a little bit of pushback, but there really wasn't much. I think what's been good about this Restore the Wild and the membership program is again, because this money is earmarked for habitat restoration, and because we've done such a good job of defining what the money goes towards, we haven't, no pushback that I am aware of from anybody saying they don't like this idea, because it's hard to say I don't like money going to wildlife habitat.
so does the $67,000 in revenue include the cost of marketing, t-shirts, pint glasses, et cetera? I know you said you have kind of a zero marketing budget so far for this, but the merchandising part, the e-commerce part.
Yeah, the 67,000, that's gross. That doesn't include the cost of the pint glasses, et cetera.
Okay, looks like the other comments, they're bantering back and forth a little bit about names, that they're similar: Kentucky Wild, Georgia Wild. So lots of closely named programs. Then Eden asks a follow-up to that: how much of each dollar raised goes towards admin of the program? So what goes towards admin and what goes to projects, on the ground projects?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And so we decided at the very beginning, since this program in general is additive to what we already do. So from Tim and a marketing standpoint, he's already marketing the agency. What this does is this just gives him really a better way to market it. And so even though there is some costs, there's some mailing costs and those types of things, we actually we suck that up into our budget, and 100% of the money that we raise goes to habitat projects. And we know that's the case, but we did that because we want to try to maximize the amount of habitat work that we can get done.
And the same follow-up: were the projects accomplished funded exclusively with money from the memberships of some? So were there other funds that went in to make those projects whole, or were they all just Restore the Wild funds that made those projects go, if you counted them in the acreage and such?
Yeah, I believe for the most part, they were funded almost exclusively by this. There was one project that I believe this might have been the match for PR funds. So this might have been the state match for PR funds for one of the projects. Jessica or Tim, do you know that for sure?
Yeah, I don't think so. I thought they all were funded by the memberships.
Okay.
But the one thing was, I know that the run kind of gave money from the run, gave an extra boost into the pot and like the total Restore the Wild funds for those projects.
Yeah, so they may have been 100% funded by this, but I will say my hope for the future is that this will be state match, and that we'll be able to expand the reach of the program by matching us with federal dollars. Or for that matter, if we ever end up with something like RAWA or something like this will be hopefully a state match for those types of things.
I have a question, Ryan, Jessica, and Tim. So up, and I think, oh, nope, it wasn't. Sorry, back up. So do you include the public as volunteers in the restoration projects ever, or invite the membership to participate as a volunteer in the project?
So I'll take that. So it's not something we've done yet, but it's a great question. It's actually something we've been talking about doing. And we're kind of investigating with the project managers about how we might incorporate volunteers. And we definitely think there's some opportunity there for the future to kind of have volunteers take on some kind of low risk types of activities like so helping to plant, with the seeds and things like that. So I think it's something we'll definitely look towards in the future, for sure.
Yeah, and I would even, so one of the things that really came out of the project that Dr. Dare and Virginia Tech is helping us with is that one of the ways that this outdoor enthusiast audience would like to support the agency is through volunteerism. And so we really are trying to find better ways to allow them to volunteer. So we may even, depending on how much money we end up making with this in the future, but even potentially, if there's a project outside at a school, at a business, at a private piece of property, there might be an opportunity for us to provide some funds for that with volunteer hours to get things done on a property other than ours. We haven't done that yet, but it's something we're thinking about.
We have a question: while a voluntary membership, a wildlife watch still needs to purchase this membership or the access pass to utilize a WMA, is that correct? If they didn't do the membership program, they would still have to buy some sort of access pass, or no?
That is correct. So when we instituted that several years ago, that was actually done. I think Jessica mentioned it. That's a legislation. So it used to say, though, our regulations used to say you had to have a hunting license, a fishing license, a boating registration, or an access permit. We now say you have to have a hunting license, a fishing license, a membership, or an access permit. So the membership is equivalent to a hunting or fishing license. But if you don't want to do any of those, you still have to get an access permit to get onto a wildlife management area.
Excellent. Any last questions? Look at that, 5 minutes to spare. Okay, so everyone, we did record this, and let me cancel recording.